Oh, was there a sound effect there? Hey everybody, it's just gonna be about like another minute and a half. Alrighty. Thank you for your patience, everybody. All right. Oh, the music stopped. Sorry. Oh, it is on. Okay. Oh, alrighty. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. Shout out to the law, having to do these wonderful disclaimers. Not. Okay. Oh, I want to welcome Adam Turan to the Last Timers Club. Greatly appreciate you joining the membership, and welcome aboard. Also want to give a thanks to you for sent 2 super stickers for 99 cents. Thank you so much. Appreciate you and welcome. All right, so let me just get this. Hope you're all doing well out there on Odyssey, Rumble, and YouTube. Good to see y'all. Hope all's going well. Hope you had a good weekend so far. All right. So, all right. So today's. Oh, I want to thank Knack as well for the very kind super sticker. Hello. Good to see you, brother. Thank you so much. Very kind. And I also want to thank Dave Rollman for the super chat as well, sent through Stripe earlier. Much appreciated. All right, so let's get rocking and rolling. And also the Last Timers Club monthly members live stream is currently scheduled for Sunday, July 28th at 7:30 p.m. There is a possibility that may change. I may do it on a Saturday afternoon, but I'm not 100% sure. So just assume it's the 28th if you're a stream level member or higher. Okay. And one more thing. I apologize before we get into this. There's going to be a lot of clips starting to roll out. So shorter length clips. So keep an eye out for those. And as part of the Last Timers Club, you actually get early access to those a week in advance. And then all of them roll out right after that. So, okay. So let's get into this. This is a really amazing case. It's Steve Swagger. And I've actually gone over a portion of his case before, but this one's going to allow me to go over it a little more thoroughly. So, and we're going to be here a while tonight because there's a lot of interesting stuff. So, I think I'm going to just try to get right into it. If you want to check out, I did write up a brief introduction in there, but because of the length tonight, I'm going to hold off on going through like a long introduction here now. So basically he had a heart attack and a stroke, and then that led to like a cascade effect of the poor guy falling downstairs and then breaking his neck. It's just horrible. And on top of it, he's revived multiple times, revived so much to the point that they basically pronounced him dead, like the staff in the ER, and they were waiting. They gave up resuscitation efforts, and we're going to call out a neutral party so that they can come in and do the official, pronouncement. But that's how deep some of this got. And then later on, you're going to hear him talk about reincarnation, and it's going to blow your mind. So it's a perfect encapsulation. What you're going to hear is a perfect encapsulation about how how easy it is for us to like fall into this. And then you have the memory wipe. It just makes it so simple to continue to fall into this cycle if you really truly don't go within and have a sovereign mindset. That's the key. Because everything is designed to distract us and take us away from who and what we are. What being, what entity, what group of parasites, what group of tricksters or whatever out there, or good beings, right? There's plenty of good beings that we even know here who, like, we're just all stuck in this loop and haze of confusion, that there are many out there who are good, but they do the bidding of the system unknowingly. And then there's a bunch that do it knowingly. And this is where the whole breaking down of experiencers in combination with common sense analysis of what's going on here comparing it up against what's being presented through data patterns in the astral with experiencer cases. So let's get right into this, okay? I think you're going to enjoy it, and I appreciate you all being here. So I'm just going to pop this up really quick for timestamp purposes while I queue up the video, and then we will be good to go. All right. I did have this ready, but then I seem to have lost it. Come on, where are you? There we go. All right. Okay.
Man.
Whoa. That might be a little loud. Some of you may be familiar with them. You might have seen them before. All right, here we go.
Absolutely. Good basic introduction there, and I appreciate it, and thank you all for the warm welcome. I already feel just more centered knowing I'm with others that are at the very least curious about this phenomena, as well as those that have experienced it in the group here also. And I have had some minor heart diagnoses over the years, had a problem with my heart racing off and on, and I totally believe stopping and then restarting in the past. There's been a number of episodes, but needless to say, none of those were diagnosed. Holter monitor didn't catch any of those things in my past. So to make a just basic background there, it was Friday night, August 10th, and I had gone down to the theater where I serve on the board of members, and we had an Embassy Theater Legends production, which is people impersonating famous singers. And I really sat up in the office most of the time with a headache and just generally didn't feel well whatsoever. No energy, and I'm not one that suffers headaches it's rare that I get anything that's, like, I've never had a migraine. I don't get debilitating headaches. I might have a headache for a little bit, but anyhow, I sat up there, and then early in the morning, so now we're into, very early, first couple hours of Saturday, about 2 a.m. after midnight, of course. It's Saturday morning now, and I'm walking home, so that's on the 11th. And then it was, I think, sometime around 2 o'clock a.m. Sunday, where my medical event really, where I knew that this was dire. I walked home the night that I left the theater, and it's definitely at least a mile. It could be a mile and a half to upwards of 2 miles, but I think it's closer to about a mile and a quarter, something like that. And but it's all uphill. I live at the top of a hill and or top of a mountain, and it was a good steep hike, and I already hadn't felt well. But I honestly thought, like, being out, getting some fresh air, moving a little bit. I didn't walk fast, but I think when I got home, I felt so poorly that I took a shower, and then I think I stumbled out of the shower and just somehow made it upstairs to bed, and then I don't really remember much of anything for the next day. I did have a neighbor come over, but that was like, well, it was interesting. Like, I spoke to him after I returned from the hospital, after my medical event. And I said, "Hey, did you come, like, visit me over the weekend or something?" I said, "I kind of seem like I have a recollection of that, but it's more like a dream or something, And he said, "Yeah, I came by. We hung out together for a little while." And so I think that was, it had to be Saturday. But I don't remember anything else from Saturday. Could be just because of all the trauma I went through, and that I had a stroke and the drop-dead heart attack and everything. But there's other things that are crystal clear, and very clear, if not crystal clear. And so to make a long story short, with that little bit of background, so I wasn't feeling well, and what I believe happened is I woke up and knew I wasn't feeling well, and looking around my bedroom, my master bedroom where I was, was almost like a kaleidoscope. I could put my finger out. For example, when I dialed the phone, I put my index finger out to dial my cell phone, smartphone, and it looked like I had 7 or 8, index fingers. And I noticed that at least it lined up with the number that it was supposed to, all of them lined up with the number that they were supposed to. So I just, picked one finger of all those that I saw and just dialed. So I got a hold of 911 and I told them, while I'm talking on the phone, that I couldn't, I could feel my pulse, but it was erratic, very weak. And then there was one point when I was trying to explain all these things to the woman that answered, that I told her I don't have a pulse now. I clearly remember that. So I believe I hung up and waited and then called them back. Or I could have dropped my phone. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I called them back. And I do remember feeling like I don't want to be here waiting for the ambulance by myself and not talking to somebody. And that's probably actually why I called her back. Probably just so I would have, some kind of camaraderie with somebody. So I think keeping our minds stimulated certainly doesn't hurt as long as we're not getting overly anxious. And I became certified to scuba dive when I was either 15 or 16 years old. And the main thing they emphasized in that class every day, every class over and over, was no matter what, don't panic. And it just kept ringing in my mind to not panic. And, I told the 911 operator to make sure that I said, please make sure you tell the ambulance to bring the defibrillator in my house. They have permission to smash my door down if I don't answer it. So we talked, and I decided,
So this is him talking about the scuba diving training is going to be a big part of how his NDE plays out a bit, or at least the perception of it, at least part of it.
See, I do remember him being at the house, because there was another time he left my door unlocked and I was very mad at him, and then he didn't come visit me for about a month and a half because I yelled at my friend Matt, and he had left, and I thought for sure there's no way he left the door unlocked. I actually clearly remember him telling him, please do not lock the door. And I just thought for sure after what had happened in the past. This is funny because this is just kind of coming back to me now. I'd asked him to, please leave the door unlocked, which was the complete opposite of what my typical policy is with my house. And anyway, I thought for sure he would have left it locked. And I told the 911 operator that I was going to go down the steps. And she said, please don't go down the steps, Mr. Swigert. So it was at the top of the steps where I had my actual drop dead heart attack. And I remember just falling forward almost like, I don't want to say like the falling forward part was in a dream, but it was almost like I'm conscious, I know what's happening, and then like halfway into the fall, I'm off in dreamland. My house has steps that go down and then turn at a right angle. So if you imagine they go down and they get to the right, the straight ahead is a plaster. My house is double brick with plaster walls, and I'm sure I hit face first into that wall. And the crazy thing was I think I must have gotten up and laid down on the floor, or I just ended up rolling down the steps, hit the wall, and then rolled down the additional 2 or 3 steps to the right angle. And then I was on my hardwood floor. I woke up on my hardwood floor. And keep in mind, I've already had the drop dead heart attack at this point. I had my neck bent, and this still hurts today. I still have dislocated vertebrae. I had my neck bent over like this, but it was floppy, and I was screaming in pain. And I couldn't move my left arm and hand. I could move my hand, but I couldn't move my arm. So I took my right arm and pushed my left hand over because I thought for sure there was going to be bone protruding and blood.
Oh.
And there was nothing, to my amazement. And I knew that I had, this sounds so crazy, and it's still honestly a little traumatizing to kind of go through some of this stuff and remember it all. My neck hurts every day, and just sometimes talking about this stuff makes it amplified a little bit, you know?
And isn't that's a crazy thing, right? About how if we start concentrating on things too much or overthinking things too much, including ailments, those things can actually become worse because of us putting our intention and energy in that specific direction. It's crazy, but it's not that crazy because we are creator beings, right? If you think about it from that perspective, even though, yeah, we're in the meat suit, but as creator beings, hey, we're putting this energy and intention, these creator being abilities into it in a, yeah, granted, it's in a different way, but it's still the same type of application. And so in turn, negative results or positive in some case, if it's something positive, can result as us putting that energy and intention out there. It's wild.
I sat on my hardwood floor, and I, you know, by having felt where that was, I had a general idea of where my neck was broken, and I slammed my neck into my hardwood floor as hard as I could. So I'm sitting on my butt on the, excuse my language, sitting on my butt on the hardwood floor, and I slam back as hard as I can to that part that sticks out my back like this instead of straight. And I did that 3 times, and after the 3rd time, my next thing is I'm waking up to, I believe it was 2 men giving me CPR, and I believe I was in my dining room floor when that happened. So I'm home. I remember aspirating right into their faces. I remember them being kind of mad because it was just like a spray at this unbelievable amount of pressure. And then I kind of remember like they were thankful too, because I'm at least alive at this point. And I was extremely combative. Just, you know, like, I don't know, it felt like no more than 3 seconds, probably just a half second or second, but really like, you know, cursing and get the F off me and I wrestled and played football, and I can get fired up pretty easy, you know, and anyway, I immediately.
So like before he goes on, something that's interesting, right? Like I'm sure many of you've seen it. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough. Like with certain individuals who have an NDE, and it happens a lot more with comas, but regular NDEs too, where someone's in the hospital and they've been out for a while or something, or even a short period of time like him. They come back combative, and they can, you know, sometimes they have like the superhuman strength. I mean, I remember there was a few cases we went over on this channel of things like that. Like there was one guy, I think, that they needed like 6 doctors and nurses or whatever, combination of doctors and nurses, 6 people to hold someone down. I believe it was one of the coma NDEs, but it's, and then there's a lot of times that anger, resentment, and that comes with someone who ends up coming back because they didn't want to come back, and just the shock of it all too, right? Going between both worlds, coming right back into the body, and then boom, here you are. I can't imagine what that's like, even though we all have experienced it to some extent, even if it was when we were born. And there's no memory of that, obviously, at least not for me. And so, yeah, it's just interesting, right? Like how the resentment and anger could be that shocking, or whatever the case may be, right? Or just even cloudy judgment. But in some of those cases, they openly admit that, you know, they were hostile because they didn't want to be here. I mean, there were even some we went over where they're like cursing out the nurses, the nursing and the doctor's staff for bringing them back.
I wrestled and played football, and I can get fired up pretty easy, you know. And anyway, I immediately calmed and apologized to them. Said, "Thank you so much for helping me." I said, "You know, I can't die. I can't die. I've got so much that I want to do." And I told the 911 operator too that there's this woman that I'm in love with. She's my best friend, and I've been in love with her for a long time. And I won't get into that much, but we did spend a good 20 months together. She was in a terrible car accident and ended up breaking her back.
Just let that sink in, okay? He has his experience, ends up with someone he clearly loves a lot. And then at the same time, or shortly after, she breaks her back and goes through hell. Really. Talk about, like, you know, give the guy, you know, at least Matrix, life script, you know, give the guy a break a little bit, all right? Give the guy a breather to get back in tune and with the program that he's back on Earth. It's like, no. Here, you're going to go into this relationship with someone you love dearly, and then they're going to break their back. It's like, what? That's got to be so hard when you're trying to heal yourself and someone you love has something catastrophic happen like that.
To learn how to walk again and use her hands again, and it was shortly after that she was home.
That's terrible.
About a year and a half after my event, then she went through that, and then we spent the next 20 months together as a couple, and I'm very thankful that I was able to come back, and she's like an angel on earth to me. It gave me just the desire, the love that I had for her really gave me a strong desire to want to survive. And then my dogs, I thought about like my dogs and her and then my dogs. And
okay, I think I might have mixed up the two. So maybe he had his experience while she was going through her rehabilitation after her accident, and he brings up the dogs, right? Talked about this before. I think, like, for me, dogs, music, and of course, soul group, family, partner, etc. All that stuff plays a big role, and dogs are definitely part of that attachment. But what you're hearing from him is, hey, I got to get back to my dogs, right? Now, the weird thing is, we've heard enough NDEs to the point where we've seen so many examples of people who have, a wife, a husband, a lot of times children, sometimes young children, babies. And it's like once they're out of their body, so a lot of times in the beginning, they'll be like, oh, well, they'll be okay. My wife or my husband or my parents or somebody's down there that's going to be able to take care of my children or my, wife, husband, or whoever, right? The dogs. But this, Steve is going right into this experience with the attachments, right? Nothing wrong with that. But it makes for, in my opinion, an easier. The Matrix isn't going to get friction from him, and you're going to see how this all plays out because of these small moments that he's revealing to us. And massive data point, because he is getting that customized experience, but at the same time, he's already essentially given his permission and I guess inner knowing, I guess it's probably not the right word, but to come back, and because of a worry of his dogs on Earth, and of course his injured girlfriend at the time.
I remember, so I'm combative and then aspirate. I mean, I'm aspirating and then I'm combative, and it seems like I remember them putting me on I don't want to say a stretcher, more like one of those medical beds that scissors up and down electrically. Could be completely wrong. It could have been something else entirely different, but it seems like that happened. And then they took me out of my house, and where my door is, I have two doors. If you're looking at my house, on the right side, I have two doors, one towards the front and one towards the back of the house. I use the door on the back of the house. It's not on the back, it's on the side, but the one furthest from the sidewalk. And it's very narrow there, probably the side. It's only sidewalk, no yard on that side, and it goes down to the steps there go down to the sidewalk. And I really think I remember them just about dumping me over in the neighbor's yard, because it's a tricky place to maneuver. And I'm sure that everything, me being dead weight and being in that bed, and the weight of one of those beds, if it is indeed the bed I recall. Anyway, I remember them dumping me over almost. And now, the next thing I remember is I'm above the ambulance, and we're driving down the road to the hospital, and I know my dead body's inside of that ambulance. And I almost felt like I don't want to say like I was flapping like a bird, but I felt like I was flying like a bird that would be following a car. And I could see, like, the people inside, but I couldn't see everybody clearly. It's just like anybody would look through the back windows of the ambulance. But that was I'm like, wow, I'm dead. And let me go back. When I went down the steps, and before they revived me the first time, the very first instance of any memory was that's more near death experience as opposed to physical, what I really went through in the physical realm that we would all understand. I was just very temporarily in a place of blackness, and I absolutely knew I was dead. And that's when I thought about my sweet friend that I love so much, and my dogs, and that I've got to come back. I can't die. It's just absolutely so many goals and dreams. And then the next thing of the near-death experience part is I'm above the ambulance. So that's two times that my heart has completely stopped again. And they're giving me CPR in the ambulance. And then I get to the hospital, and I do remember being defibrillated at the hospital 3 times. I believe I was revived in the ambulance or very shortly after, but then lost again at the hospital. And I really distinctly remember being defibrillated 3 times. It could have been more. It could have been no more times at the hospital, but I definitely remember it. I remember feeling like my whole body was a cramp. And I wish they would just stop it and let me catch my breath for a second. It sounds kind of crazy, but like everything just so tight, and you can't fight that kind of a jolt, And they worked on me, giving me CPR, and it's at that point where I'm now out of my body in the hospital. I'm looking at myself lying on the bed supine, and I just decided I'm going to go as far as I can until I come back.
I'm going to go as far as I can until I come back. See, like he's already got a destination, and that's coming back. So he's like, oh, let me take advantage and do some exploration. And because he has, see, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the girlfriend and the dogs, and having like that, just like that, knowing that he's going to come back, that right there, the Matrix isn't worried. They don't have to do much to get him back, because it's already in the cards. He's already put himself out there and basically made a decision. And so now he's going to go do some exploring. And it's an interesting case, because you're going to see a little bit of difference. Like, it's not all that often that we see or hear about experiences like this. They happen, but here.
And into the void, into the death world. And I didn't articulate that very well, sorry, but I when I was first in that place of blackness after falling down the steps, I knew that I absolutely didn't want to die, and I felt assured almost immediately upon those thoughts that I am definitely coming back. So I wanted to go as far as I could into the near-death experience as possible, and hope to remember it all.
I'm definitely coming back. I'm definitely coming back.
And hope to remember it all.
And hope to remember it all. Well, like we see all the time, there's only certain matrix-sanctioned memories that are allowed. And we're going to kind of branch off a little bit more of that as he continues to share some more.
I just know, looking back at everything now, it's amazing what I do recall. I just know that there's so much better content from that experience that I can't recall and really wish I could. Things happen so fast. So when I'm defibrillated all these times, the medical team's working on me. I can see the medical team working on me, and then it's off into heaven. And I'll talk about that after just briefly saying what was kind of interesting before. I'm in heaven, but there's one point in this where I see the medical team working on me, and they finally have to stop and declare my death. And it was interesting from a point of view. It was like, if you're with a lot of positive people, everybody kind of, that energy rubs off of each other. And when there's, the Debbie Downer walks into the room, people just, we feel that kind of negativity. It was like when they knew they could not save me and they quit, it felt like all the positivity in that room just was vanquished in an absolute instant. And I don't want to say they felt like failures, but you could clearly see the disappointment, feel the disappointment. And
it's interesting, right? So he feels that energy shift as basically they are giving up on him in the ER.
That was an amazing thing, because there was more people in that room than I could keep track of. Before I came back, so I'm laying on the hospital bed in the hospital. I'm laying down supine, back to the bed and looking up. And after everybody on that medical team that had been working on me leaves, a nurse is immediately to my left and down by my feet, and a doctor is immediately to my right and up beyond my head. And so they're working. I don't know if they're taking notes, cleaning up their stations where they were or what, but they decided to stay in the room, and they were awaiting a neutral doctor, an unbiased and neutral doctor, to come and call my death. And so then,
So this gives you context of how far into this process the medical staff were with reviving him, to the point where they're giving up and waiting for, the official kind of paperwork and approval from an outside source in the hospital.
I'll explain more about the being in heaven part and everything in just a few minutes, but I kind of want to go over these first. I think, I don't know, the way I'm remembering it right now, it's more poignant to stick with these things that I do want to make sure I say. I knew I was going to come back, and I'm now watching my body. I'm up above my body. I'm looking it would be like looking down upon yourself while you're, dead in the bed. And I see myself, and I distinctly remember, like, boy, that body, my body's pretty beat up, and that's not an exaggeration, but I can take a whooping, and I knew my body still had a lot of life left in it to give, and I knew that my spirit certainly did, and I again had this reassuredness of I am coming back 100% for sure. And now,
100%.
now at this point, I want to, but I don't know how to get back into my body. And instantly I thought, you know what? I've always been really good at talking. I'll just start talking. So the first thing I say is, well, and I promise, like I promised to myself, like I'll say it kind of quietly because I don't want to scare the heck out of these folks. So I said, well, I guess I died. And that nurse turned around so quick and her eyes were so big. She just completely knocked my phone over. So she just completely couldn't believe it. And the doctor, she's like, oh my gosh, doctor, what do we do? What do we do? And he said, he's equally shocked, but calmer in mannerism. He's a leader. He's got to be, and he answers, well, so she says, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Oh my gosh. He says, well, I guess we have a patient again. But you could hear the amazement. Like these guys knew everything I had gone through, and they still haven't had time to even check on what's going on with my neck or anything. So I also had an ischemic stroke with this event. And just if anybody's interested, I've got 4 pages of medical, just a chart, diagnoses, date, time, and stuff like that. I've got some cervical MRIs. If anybody wants to see those, I'm perfectly fine with sharing them. They're somewhere out on the internet too. I want people to see that I'm not making this stuff up. This is what happened to me. It happened at my hospital here, and I have never spoken to any of the nurses or doctors other than my cardiologist, Dr. Judson. I believe it was Dr. Judson that was there when I came back. I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't.
Okay, so this is, one of those cases that you can get further information. I believe him 100%. I believe he is very, very, very easy case to analyze and know with confidence that he is 100% legit.
I don't remember everybody's faces. Like, I could not tell you. I was looking right at that nurse's face when I said, well, I guess I died, but I do not remember what she looked like whatsoever. Maybe I'll see her one day and go, hey, are you a nurse at the hospital? And then I'll realize, but right now, no recollection. And, it's just all still so difficult to believe each and every day I wake up that I went through all this. It kind of leaves me at a loss of words for a second right now, lose my composure a little bit in my train of thought just because it's awesome, but it's traumatic too, I get emotional a lot talking about these things.
Poor guy.
So again, I had the drop dead heart attack. So I have something called Takotsubo syndrome. And that's what a drop dead heart attack is. When you see, let's say, a soccer player or a basketball player, and they're, fine athletes in great shape, and they're running down the court or, kicking the soccer ball down the field, and they just drop dead. That's the kind of heart attack I had. Mine had symptoms before it, but that's what it was diagnosed as. And they can tell by the EKG readings and things of that nature once they're able to look at everything. In the past, those things, nothing would ever be caught on the Holter monitor or any times that I did the stress test and things of that nature. So I had an ischemic stroke. I broke my neck. I still have 3 vertebrae dislocated here. I think it's 3, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, and 4 that are still sublated, is what they say medically. And I also had asthma, viral sepsis, Um, I can't remember. There's so many things that each individually should have left me dead in the medical scientific sense, uh, much less to have endured them all at the same time. And those medical records I talked about, it shows each one of these things very clearly, what my diagnoses were for that day. So this happened August 12th, 2018. And 3 days later, I had my pacemaker defibrillator implanted. And 2 days after that, I went home. I had a home care nurse come and see me the first 3 days. And she said, Mr. Swigert, you don't need any help. You're doing absolutely fantastic. And she was in disbelief too, but realizing absolutely I went through all this stuff. But I was in the hospital 5 days. Mm. That doesn't even seem that should be possible.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to say 100% totally miraculous healing because I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. But then again, when you look at everything that happened, it is almost totally 100% miraculous healing because it's just beyond a statistical anomaly that anybody would survive this kind of stuff, you know? So
yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, all right. So one of the things I've talked about, I'd like to really zone more in on these types of cases. They're not the easiest to run across, but they're out there. I've talked about them a lot. I've covered a few where like and this could be a thing where he has a memory wipe of a potential healing room. And when these healing rooms appear, or healing room experiences appear during something like a NDE or a coma or whatever the case may be, or some sort of traumatic injury where someone leaves the body, they are basically it is like, it sounds wild, but it's almost like some sort of astral surgery, and they come back and they defy the odds against all, medical belief. And they're able to, for some reason, they just come back healed sooner than they should, and like he said, he's in the hospital for 5 days. Think about what he went through. And he's out of the hospital in 5 days. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So there are these cases out there, and in my experience, when you do kind of get a peek behind the curtain, these healing rooms are involved, and they're really, really fascinating cases. There's still this one that I want to cover that I've talked about it a few times, of a man who was on a motorcycle, and he entered the same situation. And the weird thing is a lot of times it's similar kind of setting, not 100%, but when you see these, you're able to compare them and essentially get a minor data point. And they're kind of usually like run down, almost like warehouses, run down hospitals, eerie. There's other soul, true essence beings there that are also being worked on. And it's like, could be like a foggy type of setting. And then when the person enters their room, it's basically like a metal slab or like a rock slab in the center, and then there's a bunch of like energy being put into their essence that somehow links to their meat suit. And then they come back and defy odds on, they should be in the hospital for, a month, 2 months, or they should be, out of the hospital in a month, but also like, doing a lot of physical therapy for like 2 years or something crazy like that. Like big cases that just defy any modern logic. All right. So really interesting cases. I am going to get to that motorcycle case. I got to go back to when I was talking about it, someone did offer to translate it for me and for a reasonable price. So I gotta find her, and if you happen to be listening, I did see your message. I'm sorry I didn't respond yet. I know that was a few months ago.
Back to so first I'm on the floor and I'm in this place of blackness, and I think about the lady that I love, my friend, and my pets, and that I can't leave all of them. I got to come back, and
I gotta come back.
get that instant reassured feeling of I'm definitely coming back, and then I'm flying over the ambulance.
I'm definitely coming back. Instant reassurance. Yeah, see how easy he is. This is like the Matrix system's dream. It's like, oh my God, this guy, we don't even have to roll out we don't even have to roll out all the bags of tricks. Like, he's ready to go. Even though he does experience some stuff, but it's like this is one of the easiest ones they've probably ever had.
And then I'm in the room watching them work on me, and then it's like, okay, this is time to go as far as I can go, and make sure I come back, no matter what. Make sure I come back. If I have a choice, I don't know what I'm about to experience. I've never had another near-death experience. This is my first one, and
see, like, if I had a choice, he's already put that choice out there. I know I'm coming back. I know, and I get sometimes these questions like, oh, why do so many people come back? Well, it's because they don't see what's going on here. It amazes me when some are like, oh, well, why are they all coming back and this and that? But they're all buying into it. They're all buying into it. They're all being tricked and deceived. From the very jump, they are usually voluntarily going down the tunnel to the light, go into the void, and then eventually maybe to some sort of light in the distance, or interacting with this one or interacting with that one, just out of either the unknown, being curious, all this stuff. I mean, all these cases, all of them, they're like, if someone doesn't have the framework to look at this and see and question it thoroughly, not to mention all of the brainwashing, all of the programming, all the spiritual assault of the essence that goes on here and clearly carries over, unless someone is able to kind of look and think a little bit deeper about how these things don't make sense with what's happening here, how the two narratives are diametrically opposed. But yet, it for some reason, the scam just continues to hold up, obviously because of the memory wipe. But it's the interaction. It's the curiosity. It's something that is catching their attention, from the smallest to the biggest. But the point is once you're aware of this, like many of us here are, it's not going to mess with you. It's not. Like we say all the time, it's simply not allowed. They're just none of this is simply allowed to even interact with us on the smallest level, the biggest level. It doesn't matter. It's just not allowed. But the question is do you believe it deep within inside every fiber of your being? Or do you hold doubt, right? You don't want to hold doubt about who and what you are and your powers. Like we talk about a lot, like you I know it's not easy for everyone to astral project or get outside the body, but at some point you can and experience something like this. And you can put your creator being abilities to the test. You can put your abilities to the test to the point where something weird, creepy, negative, or even positive can be there, and you can will it out of existence instantaneously with your intention. That right there is a very, very, very huge indicator that we have much more capability than we've been led on to believe. And then it also shows that we can take, whether that's a real being or entity, or if it's a false construct or a real construct, and boom, instantly will it out of existence and be on our merry way. And see, like, these are things that you can prove. And that's the beauty of all this, guys. Like, if you're new or otherwise on the fence, like, there's a lot of things to like be empowered by. I mean, I know the topic itself can be difficult, right? But at some point you see through all this, and you can even have like incredible meditation experiences where you do leave the body, where like you're in like almost like the most content void like state imaginable. Not like some, love and light bomb, but just like a state of contentness that is absolutely outside your body, in a, what I would say, like a void type existence. Like, you can have these meditation sessions that are just incredible. And you can also sometimes turn those meditation experiences into something else if you want. It depends, though. Like, it depends. Go with your flow, right? Go with what you're feeling. But there's a lot of empowerment to be gained just by having the information that's shared on my channel and combining it with some exterior work day to day, right? Even if it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, like these are things you can just, like, it'll make you feel good and realize that it's not hopeless. There aren't things out there that can 100% control you and force you and this and that. There's a lot of parasitic clowns out there who have clung onto this topic, twisted, distorted it, and tried to make it put this like projection out there that you are hopeless. You have no, it's all one big parasitic trap, and you're fucked the rest of existence. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. And the beauty is you can prove it to yourself. So, if I'm talking to specifically those who may be new, otherwise on the fence, or maybe feeling a little down from this information. It's going to get better. It's going to get better, I promise. And when you look at this realm through the lens of a clown show, and obviously, nobody's perfect. We're all going to have our rough days. It's not going to be smooth sailing all the time. But there's a lot of good that can come from learning this. And you pull the curtain back and see it for what it is. And you realize that, yes, this, how many ancient scriptures and even modern day hack gurus talk about, and even whatever, there's so many examples of individuals out there throughout time that talk about how this is all an illusion. It's true. It is an illusion, but it's an interactive illusion that happens to come with a meat suit that has pain receptors and pleasure receptors and limitations of your processing power, where your essence is like running at a minute percentage. But as you kind of see through and work through all this stuff and dive into all these experiencer cases and see how the playbook is, it becomes so empowering. It really is just a liberating experience that just cannot be put into words. It has to be experienced. And I just want to encourage anyone out there who's going down this road, and just be careful too with others who are talking about this. Look, there's some good people out there, right? Like Dan and Wayne, I'm close with both of them, and I think haven't spoken to Wayne as much. We text a little bit here and there, but and Julie, and again Dan, good buddy. There's a lot of good out there that is trying to show this information and also kind of keep a level head about it as best as possible, and not pound the fare. Now, I'll just kind of close this rant out by saying, like, a lot of what you see on my channel, like, I try to put a comedic spin on things, right? And that's the best thing. That's what I do, like, is a kind of a little mini coping mechanism for myself, right? I'll admit that. But it's like, like we all have our different approaches, right? Like Wayne, Julie, Dan, we all kind of have our different approaches with this stuff. But like Dan's a sarcastic, funny guy too, right? Like you got to have that funny kind of sarcastic thing with all this, because for as serious as it is, you can't take it too seriously to the point where it's going to eat your mind up, right? Because we're still here. You still have to wake up tomorrow, right? You still have to, go to work or pack the kids' lunches or whatever the case may be, right? So just don't let it get you down. Become informed. Get to the point of that strong, firm inner knowing and come out the other end better for it and confident with unrelenting inner knowing, so that you don't have to even entertain that, you're just fucked. You're screwed. Everything's dark and horrible. There's no future for your true essence, and you might as well pack your bags and reincarnate in the morning. There's a lot of dark shit going on there with this topic. A lot. And I'm just saying, like, I've been looking into this for a long time and experienced a lot, and I know many of you have been doing the same and experienced a lot yourself. There's a lot of reassurances that come with what I talk about, and provable, right? Provable reassurances that should make anyone feel good at the end. Even, again, the rough periods, anyone who kind of just starts finding this, or maybe even been wrestling with it for a year or 2 years, it gets better. It gets better. Don't let the parasitic side of the soul trap dictate who and what you are, and that all is lost. Okay? That's all. So I'll close out my rant, and it's really sad to see some of the stuff going on out there. It's just people, it's sad. Okay. Anyways, I think I saw Tom drop a super chat. I don't know where to go. Here's Tom says, okay. Tom says, hey, Mark, what's your opinion on having a controlled OBE through sleep paralysis? Well, I think, I think sleep paralysis a lot of the times can lead to an OBE. Yeah, no, I think there's absolutely something to it. I think you can turn a sleep paralysis into an OBE, right? Or sometimes you may come back from an OBE and kind of feel frozen too. But yeah, no, I think, totally legit. Yeah. Even like if you think about just like the vibrations, right? The vibrations that you experience before you leave the body can lead one of two ways. It can lead to where you're stuck in sleep paralysis or go into sleep paralysis, or actually three different ways. Or you can wake up, which is horrible, and then because then it ruins the whole trajectory of what could have been. And then there's three, where you can roll those vibrations or sleep paralysis into an OBE. So yeah, there could potentially be a lot of benefit there, and I think those two things kind of go hand in hand, because it's like you're, for some reason, like in sleep paralysis, like even though you're consciously aware of what's going on, and it can be terrifying, like you can like try the rollout method, right? Like where you're trying to rock yourself imagine rocking yourself. Like if you get stuck in sleep paralysis, and this is different for everyone, so I'm not going to say that this is like a solution for everyone, because there are different methods. But a few times when I've had the chance to get out, like when I was in sleep paralysis and was able to get out of my body, I did the rocking method, right? Where I imagined my, basically like what my essence or my astral body rocking back and forth in my physical body, and then like almost like forcing it out of my physical body. Like it worked. I mean, and others have reported the same thing. I actually learned it from somebody myself. So look into different ways. Like another one is sometimes concentrating like on a certain area, like, right? Like not like if you're dealing with some creepy entity or something, and with sleep paralysis, that's a little different, but that doesn't mean you can't apply this. But you can imagine your astral body coming out of your meat suit, like outside your window or something, like almost like you're teleporting it, right? And you're just ignoring as best you can the horrid distractions of or terror that can come with sleep paralysis, if in fact it's a terrifying experience, and just try to zone in on that concentration to like a spot outside the house or something, something that doesn't involve you being in that room that you're experiencing sleep paralysis. So anyways, yeah, no, I think these things intermingle with one another. So I hope that helped a little bit, Tom. All right, so let's move on. And thank you so much for the super chat. Very, very much appreciate you. And thank you for being such a long time member. Been around a long time, brother. I appreciate you. Okay, let's roll.
So it seemed like I was going through a wormhole throat. And once in a while, I'll see a movie that's got a pretty good depiction of it. But I've seen like airplanes flying through storms, and the person will say, then there was just like this tube, this hole of swirling clouds. Well, mine was like a kaleidoscope of colors, like electric colors. Beautiful, and I don't want to say like a bright light, like a point of light, but the whole end of that long, twisty, windy tunnel was lit up, and you didn't have to look and see the end to know it was lit up down there. That I could say that the tunnel went like this and did all kinds of shit, but you knew that light was coming from that way, and it was strong, and then. And this is funny. My sister said, well, what happened? And I told my sister, I said, well, basically explained all that in a nutshell, and said, and then I was with the Great Council in the Sky. I don't even know where that came from. It was like I knew what to call them, but I felt like that's the presence I was in. I did not see any human shapes, forms, bodies, anything. It was just an absolute, I knew I was in the presence of these individuals, these entities. And
the Great Council in the Sky. The Council of Elders, however you want to classify them. He just knew. No like visual to latch onto, but he knew. He knew who these people were. Why does he, or beings were? Why does he know who these beings are? Why do all of these experiencers who run across these beings know who they are? How come we're able to connect that with reincarnation and pre-birth memories and life between lives? Why? Or in this case, or even in some things with breakthrough trips or NDEs, like in like we see here. Why? Because it's part of the system. It's part of how this whole thing pans out and works as the cohesive matrix unit that it is. There's a reason why all these things are identifiable to so many people who experience them, because they're real. They're there. They're part of the deception system to keep us coming back and stuck in this loop.
I didn't have a live review. I knew immediately, you know, when it says in the Bible, the Holy Bible, that we go naked to the throne of God, I knew 100% immediately that that's exactly how I was. And absolutely, they knew me better than I knew myself. They knew every single detail of all of my life, and it was obvious to me. They could see it like rewinding a video and in looking at it all. Plus, they felt it. Like, you know, that they didn't just witness my life or anybody else's life for that matter, but they felt it. They knew everything. You know, I have felt lonely and alone for a long time. And it's been tough,
Poor guy.
going through a lot of this stuff. It's emotional enough to go through. Just the medical event itself, but I just haven't felt like I have had wonderful people around me, but you know, I guess nothing's ever like we would hope it would be when it comes to these kind of things, and I don't want to point fingers of blame or anything like that. I guess, you know, these are just part of my lessons I still need to learn. And one thing I'll say, a lot of people say the oldest question of the ages is, what is the point of life? What is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And I feel 100% it's about evolving our souls.
Here you go.
Period.
Just want you to think about this, right? And we're going to come back and touch on it more. All right? I got to take a brief break, but this is like the whole transition of this moment is fascinating because it is a absolute encapsulation of how easily we can continue to fall for this, right? This is why the endless cycle of reincarnation, the blind acceptance of it, that, here I am. Just think about it before we go to break. Just think about it from this very, very stripped down, logical approach. You come here lifetime after lifetime, not knowing where you came from, why you're here, where you're going. You get here, that information goes away. Or perhaps you may be someone who has fragments of memories, pre-birth, past lives. You tap into past lives while you're here through regression, or maybe even a heightened meditation session, or an OBE, or breakthrough trip, whatever the case may be. But the information that is coming back, or even heavily resonated with, where you know it's real, you know it's something you experienced, it's just a small, small fragment of who and what you are and what you've experienced. That's what I'm saying, guys. It's like, it's so important to not lose sight of that fact. It's a fact. Nobody comes here and has full-on recollection of their eternal essence. They might realize they have an eternal essence, but they're not going to be able to give you a blow-by-blow description of everything that they've experienced. But yet then we're going to go a step further, and we're going to look right at what Steve's saying, right at what so many others have said. And they're going to say it's all about learning and evolving and growing, and then having to come back to achieve that. What sense does that make when you're not having a recollection on what to work on and how to grow and evolve? What sense does that make? It just defies any common sense. And, you know, the typical canned response to that for a long time is, oh, well, you know, if you had all these memories, you couldn't handle them. You would come here and your head would explode because you just couldn't handle them. Okay, so we'll leave that on the burner just for a moment and say, okay, we'll just say, all right, fine. My head will explode if I have access to those memories. Okay. Well, what about like getting at least access to some of those memories? Like let's just get like a 10%, 20%. Why don't we have, something to kind of work a little bit more with? But no. That information, not allowed. Not allowed. And yet, for some reason, it's just this blind compliance, blind belief, blind indoctrination that just leads to this loop, this cycle over of death and rebirth, re-indoctrination camp in the astral. Why are some true essence beings like working what would be considered jobs in the astral that exist here? What sense does that make? And it's happening. It's happening. How come the soul classes can't be accessed? Why? Still haven't gotten an answer to that. And that's been going on for a few decades now. Right? Although there are a few cute individuals out there who claim that they've tapped into it, but yet for some reason people who did this for a living for a few decades weren't able to tap into that information, but all of a sudden there's someone special that picked up on the soul trap topic and kind of weaseled their way in and made it sound like, I know what's going on in the soul classes, I'm able to tap into it. What makes them so special? It's like, this is the type of shit, right? These are the small little where the BS meter's got to go off. This information hasn't been accessible. All of a sudden, and this isn't, anything about my ego or anything, but I start talking about how the soul classes, like it's a cordon off area where information cannot be obtained about what's going on there. And just think about the term soul classes. Newton talked about them, right? And I went over them in the commentary books, right? Of Destiny of Souls, Journey of Souls. Talks about how there's like a firewall, right? Why? Why is there a firewall? And why is it called soul classes? Classes. I think of classes and I just want to puke all over my desk right now. A classroom setting when I'm finally outside of my meat suit and like in the astral and I've got to go to class. Are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. The answer is no. No. I'm not going to class. Take your classes and jam it. I'm just not going to do it. It's like, come on. And so this whole thing, this whole lore, this whole matrix lore that is factual, that, we're here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to, excel and ascend at some point. Who knows when? We'll ascend sometime, after what? 5 million incarnations, and then what? You'll be hired to be a matrix warden. At that point, your essence is so beat up and out of commission that you'll just do anything to reincarnate less. Sorry. And then if, we're all knowing and we're powerful creator beings and all this other stuff, then why would this is a big one. Why would we come down here in such a limited capacity if we were in such a superior form before we came down here? Is this one of the only ways to excel, learn, and grow? By coming down here to like the most limiting experience you can imagine, that like your essence is just like clawing out the gates, like just like what's going on here? What's happening? But yet you leave your body, you can experience it for yourself and know that you're way more expansive and capable And then on top of it, you have all these other people who are having these connections and experiences, and we're getting the same narrative that we're here to grow and learn and this and that. And then we have the what's going on outside of the meat suit that's like so amazing and incredible and expansive and deceptive, at least as it pertains to the Matrix. When you're in the Matrix, obviously. And then you look back at like the meat suit experience, the Earth experience. What? It doesn't make any sense. But yet that's where the data takes us. If the data didn't take us there, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, right? But that's where the patterns take us, and it defies any sanity whatsoever. So I'm going to leave it at that. Kind of went on another little mini rant. And we'll be back shortly. We're going to continue to go over this. I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks for stopping by. And appreciate you all. Okay, I'll be right back and go over some of the super chats that came in. Much love. go. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. It's always important to do your own research, come up with your own conclusions, etc., etc. Okay, so just want to head on over really quickly to Super Chat. Want to give big thanks to Dave Rollman and Vladimir from a couple weeks ago, and then Maria for the very kind super chat on Stripe as well, and then Michael. That was in June. I apologize. Sometimes I find these a little late, but I just want to let you know you're appreciated. And Tom, for very kind super chat, of course, too, earlier. And you. And then I'm going to head on over to Mao with the very kind super chat. Says, thanks for the inspiring message, Mark. Right on. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much. That's very kind to you. Thank you so much. It's always great to see you. And I want to give a big hello to Black Uni, Kyla, White Fox, and Holiday Fairchild, and Monopod, and Handyman, and everybody else, Dimension Theater, everyone else over on Odyssey. Hello, great to see you. And anyone else who may be watching on Rumble. Okay, so let's get right back into this. And it's good to have Boopster back. Hey, KSP, good to see you too, man. And Ryan, identify me. Hattori's back in the house after a struggle, and so is Boopster. So it's kind of a little reunion night tonight. I'm sorry, I know a few of you have been struggling out there, and, you know, my heart is with y'all, and hang in there as best you can, and I really, really hope things get better. But we're going to let's send some intention to our brothers and sisters in arms out there who are having a rough go at it, and anyone else who may be out there having a rough go, okay? Let's pop back into the case. All right. Yeah, I rewound it just a little bit.
Or anything like that. I guess, these are just part of my lessons I still need to learn. And one thing I'll say, a lot of people say the oldest question of the ages is, what is the point of life? What is the meaning of life? And I feel 100% it's about evolving our souls, period, so that we become truly higher beings. So anyway, I went through the kaleidoscope of light, and I knew that I was in the presence of the great council in the sky. And I think the next thing I remember is I was at the edge of so I didn't have a life review because they knew me perfectly, and it was like gone. So the next thing I'm in a meadow.
They knew him perfectly. They knew him perfectly. Sorry, I had the music on there. Yeah, they knew me perfectly. Why do they know him perfectly? Why is this the case so much? Like, why? Because it's just part of the very fabric of the Matrix.
My life was like gone. So the next thing I'm in a meadow, on the edge of the meadow where it meets a field, and the field is of just beautiful flowers. And I believe I was listening to music at that point, but it wasn't earthly music at all, and I can't even explain it. And I am a musician too. I don't have words to describe the type of tones I heard. Interestingly, there in heaven, I was standing with my lady, so we were in our light bodies, which for me personally, in that place of heaven, at this point, I experienced the same body I have now, no pain. Like how if you felt good in youth, that kind of feeling, And she was with me, and she's not dead, so I thought that was amazing. We were.
Now, see, that's interesting. It's she wasn't dead. Like, so this is someone, the close woman he was talking about earlier, and it's not that common, but it does happen on occasion. And part of me, like, if I ever had the chance to speak with Steve, I'd be interested to hear the state of her mind, her belief system, and how it possibly pertained to her injuries at the time when he was having his experience. Like, see, like it'd be really interesting to get some of those details to see if like there's maybe a little answer there, or potential answer. Not like there'd be a firm answer, but I think it would be interesting to hear his response.
Looking across the field of flowers, which just kind of very gently waving in the wind back and forth, nice soft breeze. I could feel the heat of the sunshine, and there was a castle way off in the distance, and it was like, and that was our castle. And that was pretty much the end of that segment. I'm trying to think what else.
So interesting, right? That it was our castle. So this is the Matrix kind of providing the fairy tale. Me, you and I in the castle together forever. It's touching. It's just, it's an interesting little thing, right?
I told you that when I came back, I wasn't really sure how to get back into my body. Oh, one thing, actually, when I went into the wormhole throat, the very first thing I remember actually is like launching into that. I was out of my body so fast and launching through that, but it was like when you drive a car and you leave from a red light where you've been at a stop, and you gradually accelerate up to whatever your cruising speed is that you desire. It felt like launching. If you've all been on an airplane, you start going down the runway and you kind of feel like, wow, this is, pretty smooth in this, and then all of a sudden you feel that thrust. I felt like I was getting launched off into, space. I remember of all things, I've always been amazed with the pyramids and, Egyptian archaeology and all kinds of archaeology and historical things of the ancient past, I think.
Okay, so key thing, right? He's always been fascinated with that stuff, right? So, well, what does he get? Always been fascinated, putting that energy, that intention, the effort into that because of the interest. Understandable.
Of all things, I've always been amazed with the pyramids and, Egyptian archaeology and all kinds of archaeology and historical things of the ancient past, I think, are absolutely fascinating. But I remember like flying over the pyramids while they were working on them and constructing them. And
were giants working on them?
It seemed like, this sounds kind of silly, but it almost seems like I saw all of human history on my flight to the Great Council in the sky. There was the kaleidoscope of light and everything, but I don't know if it was like right before getting into that kaleidoscope of light or right after it, but somewhere along that journey, it was like I was watching all that stuff, but it felt like a download too. If if we're studying and we're reading a textbook for a college course, it's going to take a while to read through that book and absorb and assimilate that knowledge and understand it.
See, like this download. How many times have we heard that term used in relation to experiencers? Download. It felt like a download. So who's to say that information that the transmission of that information is in fact accurate? I've theorized on the channel many, many times that this is just a thought input, right? Thought control. So you can present things. The Matrix is very, 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 very good at customizing the experience to you. So Steve has an interest in pyramids, in Egypt. He had in archaeology. He has an interest in dogs. He has an interest in the woman that he's dating at the time, right? All these things. He's told us point blank in decent detail that these are the things that interest him. These are the things that interested him while in the meat suit here on Earth. And well, lo and behold, what do we have? We have an experience that is being rolled out and customized to him. Like, there's been so many examples where people believe in all sorts of different things, like Mars and traveling the planets and whatever, right? Planets, okay? And then I'll get like the opposing side and say, oh, well, because the Earth is flat, that, this whole experience is bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit if the experience is being customized to the belief that the person is buying into, right? I have some thoughts about everything going on here. As far like I've made them pretty clear, right? But the problem is just because someone believes in that doesn't make their experience BS. It doesn't, because we've seen over and over in the top researchers in the field of NDEs or miscellaneous experiencer cases, they all talk about the customization. But especially with NDEs, it's customized to you. So if you believe in space, if you believe you're going through nebulas and this one and this thing and that thing and star systems and planets and this and that, well, that's what you could potentially get. Potentially. So, I just really want to put that out there because it's important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater because of something that you probably feel pretty confident about as far as relation to what the Earth looks like, right? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot to question there. But at the same time, you can't discount someone who has an experience and believes in certain things and then have the knowing or maybe even learn about the realization that these experiences are customized. Really, really, really important stuff. And Steve's such a perfect case of this. He has told us over and over and over the key things that he is like all in on, like that, like, whether it's like more recent thing, like with the girlfriend, or like long-standing interests, beliefs, all this stuff is like it's such a perfect example of the customization, and Steve got it tenfold. And they even provided him with the fairy tale castle for him and his girlfriend. I mean, it's incredible, but not surprising, right? Because this is what we get.
And, if we were a computer, we could have this information much more quickly. And it felt like that. It felt like I was getting loaded and then overloaded with this information, just more than could possibly be given anybody. And thus, I 100% believe I was dead for about 30 minutes. I have no idea how much time exactly. Um, uh, I don't know how long I was, in the tunnel going towards the light to see all that stuff that I saw, when it seemed like I was watching all of recorded history. But it seemed like launch, and then faster and faster and faster and faster, and then boom, I'm at the Great Council in the sky. And like, that was just awe-inspiring. Like, wow, it was obvious again when I got to them that they knew everything. You are completely naked for sure in their presence.
They knew everything. You're completely naked in their presence.
And I don't know. I feel like I'm skipping around a little bit back and forth.
A lot of NDEers feel like that.
That's. I would say those are the main. I always feel like after I talk about this, I forgot this or I forgot that. It's hard to articulately, coherently share the whole experience. And indeed, some things I just don't know the order of. That was a big puzzle coming home from the hospital, and I have written a lot of notes, and I might even have 100 pages of writing or more of like what I recall. And
I'd like to see those. I'd love to see those.
And then I started trying to piece things together about what time frame, because maybe I'm watching something on TV, or maybe I'm having a conversation with somebody, and there's just some kind of rather maybe subliminal hint that all of a sudden is like, wow, that, you know what, I remember this part of something, So there's still just little tidbits of stuff that comes back to me, but nothing any more significant or anything yet. I think, I absolutely believe that we're going to come back here over and over and over again. Get through the process of death, which for me now was something I used to fear. Now I feel like it is the complete and utter freedom that we all actually desire.
Are you hearing this, guys? I'm going to let him say a little bit more, and then I'm going to back it up, because we need to unpack this.
Of course, we're not supposed to take any shortcuts to get there.
No shortcuts.
Supposed to live and enjoy this life. And that means embrace the bad, too. I know that every storm I've gone through has brought a beautiful sunshine at the end, and life has an even deeper and more quantitative meaning. If you read any principled religious book, the Bible grows with you. It's the living word. To me, that means that.
Okay, so before he continues down that road, there's a lot of truth to the statement he made about how, essentially, like, with great suffering comes clarity. Now, that is a very generalized statement. It's something that I've found in my life. I think it's in some twisted, multiverse, weird, cosmic way, I guess you can say, has opened doorways, pathways to me exploring different things as a result of hardships and trauma. And, I've talked about this a few times, but I think something that I've noticed with the small community that's kind of developed around this is that there is like an overarching theme of trauma, right? And it could be absolute horror show, right? But for some reason, there's something about those experiences that open those pathways and doorways to being able to ask bigger questions and get to something like this, like what we're talking about today and what we've talked about in the past in relation to this whole place being a big fat deception, right? And it's such a messed up thing to think about. It really is. You rack your brain or whatever, your essence, trying to make sense of stuff like that. And I guess it really allows yourself to branch out to areas that may have been taboo or chastised upon by society, looked down upon, whatever, right? And for some reason, in the most twisted way imaginable, those traumas can facilitate the seeking. It's so freaking, it's convoluted, it's twisted, but it's true. And I've seen it with this community. I have. I've seen it, overwhelmingly. And if I had to guess, and I'm going to be on the conservative side, very, very conservative. I'll say it's 80%, but I bet it's way higher than that. I bet it's probably closer to 90, 95%. Because I've asked the question a lot to many people, like, were there certain things that happened in your life, or maybe even recently, that facilitated you to go down this road and question reality to this extent? And without fail, it's consistent, heavily consistent. So isn't it interesting that we have that? At least this is, again, like what I see, and I'm telling you, this is it. I mean, it's so glaringly obvious. It's not like it's 20%, 30%. It's probably 85, 90, 95%. But we'll just say 80%. Even if it's 80%, that's like a huge number of people that have gotten to the point where they have questioned themselves, analyzed and reflected on themselves and the traumas and in the joys and everything about life, to the point where they can reach the point of questioning whether this can be some sort of trick or trap or deception, right? So it got me thinking, when you have that information, and it's not like we're a massive community, but it's a decent size, to like have a fair degree of confidence about with in terms of polling, I guess you can say, right? And it just got me thinking, like, so if someone doesn't necessarily have as much baggage, are they going to question as deeply? That's not to say that it doesn't happen, but are people more inclined to question and kind of go out on a limb and view this the way we do? Is it more prominent through things like trauma? And I think the answer is yes. I think it's yes. I really do. But it also kind of has me in the back of my head wondering, like, well, what about the opposite side? Because when I think back to what Monroe talked about, or when he was, going through the whole Loosh thing and learning about it, how they openly admitted there was various different degrees of the simulation. Some were like super love and light, overly positive and this that, and like people figured it out too quickly. So someone who may have easy street here, not as much trauma, is it possible? Is the pendulum swinging the other direction in comparison to the other side, which is the trauma? It's an interesting question, and I think it could be true, but at the same time, because of the hyper materialistic side of this specific epoch, it might not be that easy. So perhaps it's not the case as often. Whereas, like, when you experience traumatic things, or have gone through the trenches, so to say, you have a much more, a bigger connection with empathy and compassion for others that suffer and go through horrible stuff, right? And I think that's in my opinion a big one, a big one, because many of us, if not all of us, can relate with the poor Chinese children that are being forced to work in sweatshops to make electronics or clothes, or those living in India in a shack and with no plumbing or something. I'm saying, like, you can really connect on a deeper level and not just look at any potential modern conveniences that you may have or I may have. You can, for lack of a better term, appreciate the horrible state of the world. That's not the right word. I almost didn't say it, and then I was like, oh, I think that's not a good word. You can appreciate other people's struggles, right, and relate with them, and connect with them through empathy and compassion because of what you may have experienced or what you have witnessed others very close to you experience. And then, of course, there's the death card, right? There's, you can lose someone very close to you, and that can also open up pathways to asking big questions. And that's a big one, too. So, trauma is a big one, but also confronting death head on with someone very close to you can really get you thinking and asking big questions. And a lot of the why continues to race through the head. And then you're kind of stuck with the canned matrix answers, and that isn't sufficient enough. So you dig deeper, and like maybe you'll start buying, Dr. Moody's books, Dr. Rand Moody's books on NDEs, or you might buy Dr. Tucker's books on reincarnation, or Dr. Stevenson's book on reincarnation, or you might buy Monroe's books on OBEs, or William Buellman's books on OBEs, or meditation books, or find gurus, or whatever, right? I mean, there's so many different pathways, but I think in conclusion of this other rant here, it's that I think a lot of us, I'm not going to speak for everyone here, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to accurate with if I make this statement that I think a lot of us were not content with the answers. I know I wasn't. And I spent years trying to rationalize the shit that goes on here. The toxic, parasitic mess that goes on here. I tried to rationalize it. I tried to make sense of it, and it just, something deep within me just would not allow it. It just wasn't allowed. And I think a lot of us probably fall into that area. I really do. And, some may get to the soul trap idea sooner than others. I know it took it took me, it takes me a while to really absorb things and feel like I have an idea of what I can talk about with some degree of confidence. But like just one more thing, like with the whole NDE thing, like I've said this before, like I was buying it. The life between lives and all this stuff, reincarnation. I was buying all of it. Like, oh my God, it's for our spiritual evolution, our learning. I was all in. But then there was just like this little voice in the back of me saying, doesn't make sense. What the hell's going on here? Why are there two diametrically opposed situations going on? One which is Earth and then one which is in the astral, trying to tell me that it's all love and light and that it's all about learning and growing and experiencing and evolving. And then there's the memory wipe. See, the memory wipe is where it all falls apart. Talked about it. It's the nail in the coffin. Funny enough, right? There is no excusing that away. No matter how many New Agers want to come and parade and pretend like it is explainable or can be explained away, it's not the case. So, anyways, I'll end my rant there and kind of forgot what he was talking about at this point. Sorry. But hang in there, right? Like, it's all good. We're all going to be fine. Have that unrelenting inner knowing, guys. Don't let it slip. You got this.
Grows with you. It's the living word. To me, that means that it means something to you when you read it young. And as you get older and you go through experience, you reread those same passages, they still have that first meaning, but as you have evolved, that meaning evolves and changes into deeper, stronger, more powerful meaning, and it will always do that. And it's like there's just more clarity, and I feel that, for me personally, I'll do this as many times as needed until I am a individual that's elevated the soul through experience. And I embraced that. It was.
See, do you see the compliance? I'm sorry, I'm not going to pause it too much longer, but do you see that just the open compliance? I'm all in. I'm going to do it. Whatever is asked of me, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to question, not going to do anything. Everything's fine. If I have to come here a million more times, I'm going to do it because I know it's right. This is how powerful these experiences are, right? Like the whole customization aspect to it. It's just so freaking powerful. And then you have you kind of have a few different things that can occur. And I'm not going to rant too long, but you have like kind of like subtle everyday matrix stuff. And that could just be someone who may not be overly religious or overly spiritual, but they, they believe in something higher than them. All right. And then you have like the super religious who, they're all in on everything. And the point is those things are so easy to end up taking someone. And then add in something like attachments, loved ones, pets, whoever. It's like it's such a well thought out machine. It really is.
Awfully traumatic to go through, and that's an understatement. But it's extraordinary, and I embrace all that it's given me. And, I never didn't appreciate life. I've always absolutely adored and loved life. And I feel like the main message, if there's a big message behind this for me personally, is it helped me see the meaning of life, to evolve our souls, and to share love, and share and promote love, and share and promote faith. Something about my faith, like I've had a little bit of an inkling of doubt of like, oh, come on, we can't live these long lives and then nothing. That just doesn't make sense. Everything makes so much sense most of the time. It's like, that doesn't make sense. I always felt like, no, there's definitely something. I was raised a Christian. Not that that's good or bad. I don't want to say I'm not a Christian.
Don't want to hurt the Lord.
I don't want to say a unique perspective either, but I have an experience now that's different. It didn't teach me anything not Christian, I don't feel. And I don't think religious matters are important in these experiences. I think just sharing and promoting love, and sharing and promoting faith, and not playing into games of division, not trying to be the wedge that does divide, but embracing all the sweetness of life, and all the sour, and all the tough stuff. And
embrace the sour, embrace the tough stuff, embrace the meat suit, embrace reincarnation, embrace doing it over and over and over again. Now, one thing I think that's really important, and this is just a small little mini discussion, right, is when you're out doing your own research, there's a wide variety of experiencer cases that you consume, but the NDE area is super infested with religious-driven narratives, right? The one thing I've really discovered, I'm sure many of you have seen it in your own research as well, is that the vast majority of individuals who have experiences, and even if they were gung-ho, Jesus all the way, Bible all the way, Christian, Catholic, whatever, Muslim, doesn't matter, right? Throw it all out there, right? The one thing we see constantly, or not constantly, with a very high percentage, is that if they came into an NDE religious, they often, very often, come out the other end when they return not mega religious. They may have beliefs, they may have some sort of confirmation that occurred because of the customization experience that they had. But usually you will hear them, if it's in reference to something like the Bible or the Quran or whatever, they will tell you like, oh, like some of it, like these things that Jesus said, or these things that Muhammad said, or whoever said, some of this is true. But a lot of the other stuff just is filler. It's too much. It's just unsubstantiated, and that it doesn't fall in line with the experience that I had. And the reason why I'm saying this is because then you have a whole sector of NDE channels out there that are completely driven by religious doctrine. Someone like Steve would not be allowed on a channel like Randy Case. Have any of you run across his channel? There's a lot of NDEs on there, right? There's a lot of experiences. But if you start to look at his channel, you'll notice that it's all driven in a certain direction, right? And there are many channels like that. So I'm not picking on him specifically, but, you know, he's got a little operation that he's running, and that's what he's doing. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because the authentic NDEer that's being honest with you that you're listening to is going to say pretty much what Steve said, in that, you know, look, I may not classify myself as this or that, but, you know, here's some of the reasons why some of this is true, and, you know, why I'm not necessarily affiliated with ABC religion. Okay? See, that right there, that's what you should be looking for. That's not to take away from someone, you know, that's not to say that everyone who, you know, comes back and is still a thumper or something like that, that they're not, that it's not true, or that they don't believe it, because we didn't go through their experience personally, right? We don't know. But the fact that so many will say, well, you know, I had these belief systems, you know, I went to church every Sunday and yada, yada, yada. And then I came back and, you know, like, here are some truths and here are, you know, the rest of it. I'm like, you know. So that's the honesty right there. Those are the things you should be looking for. And when you're analyzing a certain channel or website that's sharing experience or cases, in this case, NDEers, you should look and see, like, are there religious slants? There's a lot of AI channels now out there, and they're pumping out experiencer case after experiencer case after experiencer case. And you know what? Funny enough, when you start listening and looking at the titles, reading the descriptions, they all just conveniently happen to go in one direction and one direction only. Huh. Why is that? So they're taking their own biases and weeding out certain experiencers because it doesn't fit with their narrative or their operation. And then there are even channels out there I've even wanted to kind of discuss, but I'll just kind of give you an idea. So we talk about, you know, again, the customization of experiences based on, you know, what you believe in. Okay, the geographical location that you may be in. And there's a little channel out there. So, like, when you're trying to find, like, international cases that would be translated in English or something like that, it's a little difficult, like, unless you're looking at tech sites. And if you're looking at tech sites, then you can get quite a bit. But as far as, like, video goes, there's not as many. It's difficult. But I feel kind of hopeful that that's going to change just because of what's going on with AI. I think in the next few years, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to be able to cover that we weren't able to cover earlier. And once AI services start to be, like, the price starts to come down, I think we're going to be able to open up a can of worms all across the realm of all varieties of languages and belief systems. And what that's going to show, and what it already shows. It already shows. It's just, I can't, you know, I can't cover all that stuff because it's, you know, you need someone to translate it and provide the English and all that stuff. And it's a lot of work. Okay. But it's there. It's 100% there. And all the leading researchers out there agree in unison about the customization. And that, again, boils down to where you grew up, what your belief system is, what your parents may have taught you, or whatever, right? Yeah, you know, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, whatever. Pick one. And if, depending on that system, that's what the experience you're going to get. But when you have channels, like there's one that I can think of, I'm not going to name it by name, but I was looking for like Buddhist or Muslim or this one or that one. And then there just so happened to be a channel that had all of those things. And it's like, oh, this is great. You know, I'm going to be able to get some condensed NDE accounts who had belief systems of around the world, and I'm going to be able to talk about them on the channel. Well, what did I find? I found that they all just happen to be Christian leaning. Oh, Buddhist sees Jesus, or Muslim sees Jesus, or Muslim meets Abraham, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like they're out there, like, and when you see a channel like that, there is an agenda, 100% an agenda. So that's why, like, like with anything in life, right? The waters can be muddied heavily, but just seriously, take what I was just talking about and apply it to your own research, because you're going to get more authenticity. And because humanity has inherent biases and all that stuff, it comes with the show. But don't let it cloud your judgment and just fall into one certain narrative, because it's just not true. There is no right religion. There is no right God or deity or whatever. And I'll kind of just close on this by saying you can go and look at one of my old videos called the Unsub Special. Who is the true God? What is the true God? How do you know? And I list off a bunch of different deities, gods, whatever. And it was barely touching the surface. And so you can take that video, and you can also you don't even have to watch it, but just out of pure common sense, if you've been diving in and realize about the customization with experiencers, you can ask yourself, well, why is that, right? It really just, what makes your God, your deity, whoever, so much more special than, Joe Schmo in the Sahara? What makes it, or the Native American tribe, or what makes your God so much more special than the other God? And yet, for some reason, NDEers they have customized experiences. So maybe if you're in a tribe, there's indigenous NDEs, and there's even research behind all this. So there's data to back this up, again, about the customization and how they perceive and have an experience based around that customization for their specific God, deity, whoever. Or maybe even like a medicine man, or a former tribe leader, or whoever, right? And so with that in mind, again, the question, how do you know that your God is better than their God, or their God, or their God, or your God? You know what I'm saying? It all falls apart. And then when you have the similar characteristics of the NDE, with either the tunnel, the scenery might be a little different, but it's the same characteristics: the tunnel, the light, or the void, and then either the darkness, or the evil, or the good, or the love bomb. It's the same freaking playbook. It's just tweaked for that individual based on what they're buying into while in the meat suit. So that's end of rant, whatever, 3 or 4.
Does divide, but embracing all the sweetness of life and all the sour and all the tough stuff, and really, just growing, but sharing with others through this process, how we can get to a better place while we're here. But we only do that together, and again, I've never not been a thankful person, but I've never been more thankful. And each and every day I wake up, I just, there's this part of me that just still can't believe I went through all that. Because if somebody told me that and I hadn't experienced it, I'd have a really difficult time believing them. And then when I think about, not that it's the only story, but one story most of us are familiar with is Jesus Christ. It's like, could that have happened? I don't think doubt doesn't exist in my mind as it once did. There's a certainty with certain things that have pure, crystal clear clarity now that I didn't before. I am so much more at ease. I do not want to depart anytime soon for heaven. I love this life, and I want to continue sharing all the wonderful and all the bad, the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak. And I just feel like this certainty now, this left this fear off my shoulders. I don't have to choose to live with that anymore. It's hard to stay centered and focused sometimes. I'm still quite emotional. This definitely gave me PTSD, and I already had PTSD before all of this. And I'm not trying to whine and complain. It's just, as soon as I was here with you all, I felt so much more centered, as opposed to my mind thinking about how is tonight going to go.
Yeah, he's a beautiful true essence being. He really is. You can feel it, and you just want to just shake him and say, Steve, you're so much more powerful and better than this. Stop, just don't give into it. But these experiences, this can't be stated enough how powerful they are. They are so freaking powerful. And not to veer off just a small little mini rant, right? When I going through multiple phases of my awakening, so to say, I had the pinnacle of euphoric, amazing experiences and the lowest of the low, darkest of the dark experiences. I had both of them and everything in between, multiple times. And if I had just those euphoric, insane, amazing experiences, and that's all I had, wow. But the trajectory of where I would have gone in life and with this would probably have been a lot different. But I was able to experience both and then come back and land and question things and say, wait a minute. There's still all this going on. There's still all this that happened. There's still all this that continues to happen. And there is still my fellow brothers and sisters all over the world suffering at this very moment, right? And that doesn't go away. It doesn't just disappear. It may be clouded for a brief moment, but it doesn't go away.
I have met some of the finest people in my life after my experience, and because of it. And even if we have only great people in our lives, we can all use more great people in our lives. And I just, I know that I'm going to think of something later that I didn't share. I feel like the doctors didn't save me. I feel like love and faith saved me. But the doctors, to their credit, 100% carried me through the process of death and kept the body able to host life. And it is absolutely a miracle I'm here multiple times over. I'm not paralyzed. I can use my hands. I go hiking. That's how I broke my elbow. I can work on my cars. You know, life's not a bowl of cherries, though. Financially, it's very difficult. My heart stopped on election day, the presidential election day. Had another episode where, and I was defibrillated on that day by my pacemaker defibrillator unit. There's another time where I've been defibrillated. I must have been asleep because I don't remember it. I would think it would jar me awake if it was anything like the first one that hit me, because, wow, I walked into my house, just took a step through the door enough to close the door behind me, and then turn back towards my kitchen and start taking the first steps in my house. And I thought somebody hit me in the back of the head with a baseball bat or something. I really didn't know what happened. And then it did knock me all the way down. I was on one knee, and then immediately I knew, like, oh, wow. But I couldn't help being overwhelmed with, like, oh, boy, I don't want to go through all this stuff again. I will, if it means I get to survive. That's okay. But, it's hard to not panic again. Back to what I said in the beginning, no matter what, stay calm. Have to, and it's tough. I don't know, share and promote love and share and promote faith are just a resounding, underlined, underscored theme. And I'm certainly not perfect at those two topics, but I know I can get better every day. I'm just so thankful for all the people that helped carry me through all of this stuff and still do. It's amazing to have my pets. It was amazing to spend 20 months with the woman that I love. We're not together now, and I miss her dearly, but sometimes we have to move forward in life, and that's okay too. Doesn't mean it's easy. The best things never are.
Oh. Poor Steve.
Sorry. I just think it's amazing that we all can share the way we can share today and grow through these experiences. And I don't want to say a revolution, but I see something fascinating happening today. And of course, if you said all of us that went through NDEs were in a box, and all those that didn't have them are on the outside, they don't know what's in the box. I feel like more people are curious about what's in there today. More people are open-minded into believing it. But more importantly, we have lots of wonderful people documenting these experiences, and we have so many incredible things recorded. Like Jack mentioned about Bruce Grayson. I know the University of Virginia, where he is instrumental in all that they have done. And
Vision and perceptual
it's
studies.
amazing to be able to be plugged into people like all of you, So like when I came back and I wasn't quite sure how to come back without alarming them, I'm good at talking. I think I've said what needs to be said, and I just appreciate you all being here tonight. And, I hope this can shed light on something that somebody else is questioning right now. I hope it can help anybody that could potentially learn anything whatsoever from it. And if anybody doubts any of this, that's fine. I would call you crazy if you didn't. Just appreciate y'all being here tonight, and I wanted to say thank you for the warm welcome and for the wonderful invitation to talk to you all.
Steve, thank you for trusting us with your feelings.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions, please? Questions?
Yeah, I'm with Ryan. Ryan Watson says, "This poor soul, I feel for him in so many levels." So do I, man. It really just pierces through the heart. It really does. I should try to reach out to him if I remember. My memory can get a little rough, but yeah, I may try. Like, I think it would be an interesting conversation. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play out maybe one question, and then I'm gonna do a part two. All right, so there's a whole panel that this is like a NDE support group, and so then I'll play maybe one question, and then we'll do a part two of this stream sometime later in the week, and go through the questions. So and then after we wrap up here, I'm going to head on over to the Truth in Gaming channel. The link's been dropped in the description, and if you don't mind hitting the like button, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you want to.
Okay, Jack.
Steve, you mentioned in your experience on the other side about bodies of light. Could you elaborate on that, please?
It's hard to. I just know the way we gauge things in our three-dimensional world, as far as, we get attuned to our height, our space, how far we have to reach for something, or you can feel the thickness of a $1 bill versus there's an extra dollar bill there, and hey, I got an extra one there. Hold on, those things all seem present, but I definitely felt like a body of light, though. I felt perfect, for one thing. There was no such thing as pain in that realm whatsoever. Okay. I'll tell you, also, I was instantly relieved when I was gone the last time and flew off. I felt like I don't have to fight anymore. This is the first time I've not been in pain, maybe in my whole life. I felt...
You hear those words? You hear those words? I felt like I didn't have to fight anymore. I felt like I didn't have to fight anymore. I think anyone who gets to experience the Earth experience can resonate with that regardless of belief. I didn't have to fight anymore.
When I was gone the last time and flew off. I felt like I don't have to fight anymore. This is the first time I've not been in pain, maybe in my whole life. I felt rejuvenated in ways that an earthly experience doesn't talk about. Share there's just no comparison. But
no comparison. I say that all the time. Can't compare it. Can't compare what you were on Earth to what you're experiencing outside the body. No comparison, and it's true. There is no comparison. It's completely two different states of existence.
Anyway, I felt like in my body of light, I felt like those same dimensions were around me, as far as this is how tall I am, this is how big I am. But when I went through the wormhole throat that looked like a kaleidoscope full of colors, I was like those colors too. I don't remember looking at my lady there and thinking, wow, what interesting colors our bodies are, or anything like that. It seemed like normal. And, I don't remember any specific communication, but I know we didn't talk using our mouths. I know it was all, we just knew what each other was thinking and saying. And so in the body of light, like we were both in awe of the flowers and how perfect this meadow was that came up to the field, and then total awe of the castle across the way. And we we both knew it was our castle. You know, I feel like eventually we'll be there together one day. It's okay to be patient.
Eventually we'll be there together. So it's, you know, the what you hear right there is the soul group, right? The soulmate, but the soul group, right? These two absolutely planned it before they came down here in pre-birth planning, and who knows, you know, probably even before that. And that's what you get, right? It provides maybe her the outlook of hope, the outlook of reconnecting and things like that. And that goes to the very essence of attachment and how this place is able to, attachment is such a key part of all of this. Like, I hate giving this system credit, but they are absolute geniuses with how they execute all of the different plans and approaches to keep the cycle going and to keep the machine running, the feeding going. It's impressive. It's absolutely mind-blowing how well it works.
The body of light, I just felt I don't know, perfection. I don't know really
Perfection.
how to describe it other than that. I mean, I'm sorry it's so vague. It's so tough.
Well, you
Like, perfection is such a when you when you experience going outside the body for the first time, or even multiple times, right? Perfection is a great term for it, because it leads back to the same statement that Steve made earlier, where he's talking about how there's no comparison. There's no comparison to the two states are so drastically different that they just, there's no comparing them, right? Being free of pain and suffering of the meat suit and things like that. Big experiences that you can do yourself. And, again, I talk about this all the time. I think it's important to, wait until natural death and get to that point of the firm inner knowing that you're going to write your own path out, but with the natural death, because there are way too many examples out there of how the matrix can kind of interfere. And then there's also the state of mind, right? Like the state of mind's a big one, right? If someone doesn't have the proper state of mind and does something irrational, they're not really concentrating on who they are, what they're capable of, what they can do, and their clean break from the matrix. But instead, they're kind of zoning in on possibly the anxiety, the fear, the trepidation, whatever the case may be, right? And that's not to say this isn't really applying to situations where someone's terminal or something like that. Like, I get that, but because you just want to, you shouldn't have to live a life of complete hell, right? But by the time someone gets to that point, chances are they've been really put through the ringer and aren't going to be irrational, right? Or allow attachments to get the best of them or stuff like that. Or maybe even some stupid contingency clause or something with the agreement with coming down here. That's where I'm like, don't risk something like that. Enjoy your last time the best you can. Make the best of it in general. And I know it's not always easy, and everyone's got their own situations, or maybe health situations, or scares, or whatever the case may be, or perhaps you're going through a lot right now. And I empathize with that. It just, I just think it's there's certain things that just allow yourself to expire when your life script is supposed to. That's my opinion, and I think very strong opinion. Okay, so please, and if you're ever having any sort of dark thoughts or things like that potentially could lead you in a different direction to make a decision that may not be best for you. I gotta say, at the bottom of every description of each video, there are resources available to you. There are people you can talk to, and yeah. So please.
You describe a lot of the feelings of the bodies of light, but can you describe the visual aspects of the bodies of light? How to and put it into our senses and communication abilities? If you were to write down what they look like.
Well, the only person I saw as a body of light was, I believe, the woman I was in love with then. I said, my lady. It was almost like transparent, but luminescing with color too. That's just why, they're kind of things that are almost paradoxical in nature, it seems, which it's just really hard to explain.
See, like, when he talks about that, like, I love his description of it, because I feel it is a really, he's trying to describe what at least I would perceive spending a lot of time in this area with orbs, right? And summoning and interacting with orbs, or for whatever, some sort of light type being, transparent light type being. They're out there, right? They're there. And a lot of times they're involved with, or they'll appear for those that lose someone, or someone that moves on, passes on, and they have this very distinct, transparent color pattern to them. That's it moves rapidly. But it's there, and it's consistent. It's very, very consistent. Now, does that mean that that's everything? No, but it's a very, very consistent thing. And I've spoken with a lot of people who have experienced it. I've filmed it, interacted with it. It's there. Some of the videos you can find on my channel still, long time ago, and you can find some interviews of me talking with people who have lost parents or children, things like that, and had these types of experiences themselves. So, I'll call it orb research, but, you've got to remember he went a little bit beyond all of that. But he's essentially, in my opinion, and, I can't put words in Steve's mouth, but based on what he said, I'm hearing the same thing that can be witnessed sometimes on Earth. And if you lose someone, the chance increases that you will experience something like that. Or even if you don't, like if it's an area that you start diving into, with orbs and summoning and all that stuff, things can get really interesting really quick, and some amazing things can happen, and they can come in different forms. Not always orbs, but most of the time they'll be orbs, and then the orbs will have faces in them, human faces or animal faces in them. It's an area of research that is really, it's kind of underground. It's really not talked about enough, but there's so much to it. So when I hear someone like Steve describing this, like, it makes perfect sense, and it lines up with what can be experienced here. I'll tell you about just really quickly about when I was like really deep into orb research years ago. This is this is like some like Matrix, funny, weird Matrix synchronicity that just like led me to this random person who had like 15 subscribers, and he had just lost a very close friend of his. I don't know, maybe like a month before, and he was doing live streams, just random live streams. I somehow run across this channel, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, when I first ran across him, he was talking about his friend and what happened and how horrible it was and unexpected, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing out of the ordinary, but still horrible, right? And he was grieving hard. And nice guy. Talked to him privately a number of times. And then what was interesting is, like, he wasn't showing any orb stuff in the beginning. And then I was subscribed and watching him regularly because he was live streaming a lot. And just stream of consciousness, just, you know, in the perils of grief. And all of a sudden, he starts seeing transparent orbs. And some of them were coming in his house, but a lot of them were coming in his woods and in his backyards. And he would set up the camera to stream for hours and hours and hours at a time. It would be all through the night into the morning. And like, I was trying to talk to him and saying, hey, you know, this could be, you know, some sort of communication that you're getting. Now, if that communication was in fact his close friend that passed, who knows, right? I mean, I leave that up for debate, but he was filming this stuff, and it was just such a random thing to just walk into and see revealed in real time. And nice guy, and, you know, I don't think he's streamed in years, but he describes the same thing. I've seen the same thing. I would go out on a limb and say probably millions of people have experienced something like that, with transparent orbs, transparent beings that resemble their loved ones, or seeing faces of their loved ones or their pets inside of an orb, transparent orb structure of light, varying in different colors. It's common. It's not. It's real, and a lot of times it links to loss. So just some things to throw out there.
They're kind of things that are almost paradoxical in nature, it seems, which it's just really hard to explain. Again, like if we had been in the physical realm here at the edge of a meadow by the flower, all that felt the same to me. Okay. Otherwise, I'd say our bodies were definitely they were markedly different. We knew they were different, more like they were kind of transparent and luminescing with light is about the best thing I can really say. I knew, like, I looked at her face, but I saw her face the same way that I know her. I don't even know how to explain that. Although I know it was different. I knew it was the same old familiar her too. Kind of, again, paradoxical a good bit.
See, I knew it was her. I knew it was her.
I don't remember talking to anybody in the whole experience of death itself. It was all, when I was at the Great Council on the Sky, I knew, like, I don't know how many beings were there. I knew it was all that came before me and remained to stay. I knew that for sure.
Okay.
So, countless souls, but I didn't see bodies of light there. Not that I recall. Maybe I did. I just felt like I know where I am. I knew I was in this great, powerful presence that was an all-knowing, all-understanding entity, and entities really beyond a single entity. But there was definitely an entity that was the dominant, not in a bad way, but I don't want to say the leader, but there was just definitely one powerful being with the others. But really, the only time I remember seeing any bodies was my own extremities, like, wow. And then looking at her right on the edge, and it was just that quick. It was like looking down at my hands and then looking over at her, and then we looked across the field. And, one thing that was interesting, when I was flying through the wormhole through it, this is funny that I forgot this. This is one of the important things. So visuals on being in a body of light. At one point, I didn't feel like I was my regular body. I just felt like I was this infinitesimally small point. And a lot of people say they had like 360-degree vision. I had spherical vision. I could see in every direction all the way around my being. I don't want to say my body, but my being all at one time, which was amazing.
All right, so I got to stop him there because this goes to what I was talking about with the orb thing, right? There's so much to suggest that, the spherical thing could be the orb. It could be something perceived as an orb or spherical, whatever you want to call it, right? I think there's a lot to it, and it goes much deeper than probably we can imagine. And I'm going to go out on a limb and just say, like, it could, in and of itself, be part of the etheric attachment type system, right? Now, some, claim that they can remove these things and all that stuff. And, I'm not here to say whether that's true or not. I do believe that some people need things like that, but they can also a lot of times do it themselves. But that aside, I think the like when we leave here, even if you think about with OBEs, how we hear about the astral cord. I've seen it, not every time, but some people see it every time, right? And if we're in some sort of the Matrix, it would be in its best interest to kind of have a layer over us, right? Like an overlay, should we say? And for that to kind of reassure us, affirm certain beliefs, interactions, whatever the case may be. And we can, for lack of a better term, say it's like some sort of overlay. Now, when we leave the Matrix at a time of natural death, I think one of the intentions that should be thrown out now is that, and we've talked about this, right? It's nothing new. Like any and all attachments related to my existence in the overarching Matrix system are not allowed to exist within my very being, right? It's just simply not allowed, all right? Because what if something like that can skew your perception, right? And I mean, these are fine details. I'm not here fear mongering saying, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. No. I think as long as everything comes from the heart, from like deep within, the unrelenting inner knowing that we talk about all the time, that everything's fine. Everything's fine. But, you know, at the same time, why not throw it into your meditations or something? Or why not just say, you know, I'm not going to allow anything to kind of circumvent my liberation, right? And just put it out there. That's all. So, again, don't get hung up on it and all freaked out by it. But I think the translucent or transparent sphere with, you know, changing colors and things like that, and maybe even features of a face or an animal coming up, like there's something to it, and it very well may carry over outside of the earth realm itself, but still part of the overarching matrix system. So just putting it out there.
It also sounds like something that's impossible to process, but it's not. When you're in that place doing that, it's just as normal as how we look around now. As far as we don't think about it, we take things for granted. There, just it felt more natural than natural, you know. But there, I still feel like I was a body of light or an energy body, but again, I don't think I took up any physical space. I think I was like pure energetic presence at that point.
Okay.
And still the all-knowingness feeling, the communication without being able to speak, that was the same. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I saw anybody glowing. I absolutely don't think I saw anybody else. I'm glad I remembered that part though, because that was something that was quite, again, like in that moment, I was in awe of, like, I'm this now. And I also remember I felt like I could go anywhere I wanted to and be there instantaneously, just with thought. As soon as I thought it, I was there.
Yeah,
Like, my best friend in high school, we used to talk about all kinds of crazy things. He was like, well, what do you think heaven will be like? And I said, whatever. This is funny.
Wild.
I didn't even think about what the question was. What would heaven be like? I don't remember my answer, but I remembered his answer. He said, well, I think it would be like, and keep in mind, this was like 1984, 1985. He had an Apple IIe computer, and I had a Radio Shack or Tandy model TRS 83. And dad's at the Pentagon. So here, and his dad was Air Force, my dad was Army. So here we are, two kids growing up with computers when most people just didn't even have them. Most adults didn't have them. You know, they were freaking expensive. And I remember him saying, I think heaven will be like we'll be at a computer, but we can rewind and look at any point in time we want from any perspective. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. Well, it felt like that, amazingly.
What was the landscape like as far as light is concerned?
Well, kind of like going through that tunnel.
So as far as like the background and all that stuff, you know, I think the family background, I think it really goes to show, it explains at least a portion of his drive, right? His belief system. And who knows, right? I just think it opens up a broader explanation for why it's like, hey, you know, you have ties growing up with your family that are government in nature, probably a rigid type of belief system that is expected of you, and then you have this formative experience in your later years, and it kind of ducktails into part of that belief system, right? So, you know, very ABC XYZ?
I don't know. Looking across the field and looking, from the edge of the meadow, looking across the field where all the flowers were and looking at the castle, that all seemed like almost as perfectly normal as here. I know that something was different about it. I think everything was kind of, I keep saying luminescent, kind of a glow, an aura maybe, but it wasn't like significant. I do remember like the castle. I think it was glowing kind of golden around it or something. But that's the only thing. Golly, I'm trying to remember when I saw the pyramids, that all looked pretty normal, but they were working on them, like building them. There was lots of people building them.
Oh, really?
I can't think. I don't think I saw people or bodies, and those bodies didn't look like light bodies. I know that. I definitely remember like looking at the people building the pyramid, but this would have been like being in let's say in an airplane 200 feet, 300 feet above the ground or something. They were tiny, they weren't dinky, but it wasn't like a clear, but they didn't look like light bodies. I know that too. I felt like they were more regular, I wish I could describe the light bodies better. I can't stop thinking now, like how to explain it better. It almost felt like you could just, put your finger right through your own hand or something, like we're here, but we're not in a physical sense.
Okay. And did you at any time experience what other NDEers describe as unconditional love?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I was there at the Great Council in the Sky, as I call it, I knew not only that they knew everything about me, but that they still loved me in spite of it all. That was incredible. I'm not saying nobody should love me if they knew all the things in my life, like we all have, but that was. I grew up with my dad passed away in May of 2020, and mom passed away in 2014. But they had been married 63 years when mom died first, and I really, truly, my dad went to West Point. Mom was an artist, college educated, and dad was had a master's in mathematics and a master's in engineering, civil engineering. And he was Army Corps of Engineers. And I tell you, I am so fortunate to have the most loving and wonderful parents that, growing up and then coming to Cumberland was truly culture shock as far as it being polar opposite here, where there's a lot of suffering with lower socioeconomic echelon and too many children that just don't have parents like I had. And, I grew up totally naive, thinking everybody grew up like I did. There was an unconditional love in heaven that was beyond the perfect, loving, unconditional love that my parents gave me, and theirs was perfect.
And did you meet any of your past relatives?
No, I did not, and that's something I think is interesting because I do hear a lot of people say that, but I did not.
Yeah.
I do remember, and I told my friend this earlier today, I kind of, this is like a really vague memory, but it seems like I was in one place in heaven where all the dogs were, and they all loved me and came running out of the woods to me. And that sounds kind of silly, but, and it was just a brief fleeting second.
Even the dogs had unconditional love for you.
Yes, it really truly felt like that. Like my dog that I have now, one of the two that I have now, Luna, I raised as a runt. And she's just truly, I've had a lot of dogs. She's the sweetest dog. I've even seen her cry. I mean, and I don't mean from something terrible, like just at appropriate times to cry tears of happiness or, it's interesting. She's really different than a lot of my dogs, but it's like all those dogs definitely unconditionally loved me there too. But, I don't know if those moments were like, I left the meadow and then saw dogs, or did I see them, a couple of seconds after I flew over the pyramids. I don't know where that took place. That's one reason why a lot of this is so hard to recall, because you just don't know the perfect time of it. And the thing that, I don't want to say it irks me, but the thing that's very frustrating is that I really wanted to go as deep and far as I could into that experience and bring back everything I could to show others faith. That was the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And more than the love, because I feel like humanity just doesn't have faith, and it makes me pissed so much sometimes, you know. And I just felt like, well, if I'm gone for a long time and I come back from that, people are going to believe, like, there's faith. You got to have faith. Like, how could you not, if you knew somebody who went through all that? But I don't think it made any difference. But I was gone a long time, and it seems like, I feel like I came back and only remember 0.1% of everything that I went through in the moments of death for somewhere upwards of 30 minutes, I believe. It was not a short period of time.
Have you ever considered using hypnosis to recover some of your experiences that you barely remember?
Well, I have a friend that suggested it, and then I had another friend suggest it. Both friends that I met through NDE groups. One man that I've done an interview with, and I would say I'm open-minded to it. I'm not overly enthusiastic about running out and getting it done right away.
Okay.
I kind of felt like my first instinct was I need to let the storm emotionally within me settle first.
Okay.
I really hoped I wouldn't get emotional tonight talking to y'all, but I can't help it. I'm just an emotional person to start with, but kind of reliving all that stuff in my mind that I can't even put words on. It's absolutely overwhelming sometimes. Yeah. And, you know, I don't, sorry.
It's difficult, and it takes time, and you'll remember more as you know, in the future. They'll start coming back to you, etc. It'll be interesting, an interesting trip. So I won't keep you any longer. I'm sure there are other questions, but thank you very much, Steve.
Absolutely, Jack.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bethany, and then two others.
Thank you so much. And Jack, thank you for those questions. And
okay, so going to close this out. So I'll probably do a part 2 to this. All right. And going to head on over to the Truth in Gaming channel to play a little bit of Control. Not too long, probably play an hour or something. So there's the link, and it will likely pop up in the chat as well, or on your screen when I close out tonight's video. So maybe I'll see you there, maybe not. It's been fun and enjoyable. It's great to see all you out there, and appreciate you. Please consider hitting the like button, and it's nice to see some old but familiar faces in the chat tonight. Great to see y'all, and those who've been around or maybe new to the channel, it's great to have you. And please, yeah, again, consider it in the like button, sharing, subscribing if you're new. Every little bit helps, and really the only way this channel is found out is through word of mouth. So, yeah, that's it. The algorithm isn't doing me any favors anymore, and just to kind of close things out, and what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of mind blanking here, but Control is a crazy game. It's probably the biggest truth bomb game out there, and anyone who may have just found out about the series or something that I'm doing over on the Truth in Gaming channel, part 2, I just have to edit it out, some of the technical difficulties, but I think I've got everything finally running like clockwork. And if you have an HDR monitor, HDR phone, running at 1440p HDR, 60 frames per second, like pretty good quality stream, and the truth bombs are endless. in control. So it'd be great to see some of you there if you'd like. And also want to remind anyone that's interested, I do offer memberships available on Odyssey and YouTube. And stream level members and higher get monthly members live streams, early access videos, and an invite to the members Discord. And there's also a few years of backlog of members content too. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, memberships is a great way, and always appreciated but never expected. And I also have a Stripe, and that's kind of like a PayPal. They take the least amount in terms of fees, and then I think it goes Stream Elements and Odyssey are also good ones, and then kind of YouTube and things like that gets a little higher, where they take like 30%. And I also have an email list if you're interested in joining. To this day, I've had the email list for a couple of years, and I haven't sent one email out, but it's a good way for us to stay in touch just in case something ever happens to the channel. I also have a backup channel for this, so please consider subscribing. You can check out the About tab on each platform and find the associated links. And there's also a Facebook and Instagram and a Twitter where I post notifications prior to each stream, usually an hour, a couple hours, sometimes 24 hours in advance before we go live. And I haven't been doing a stream every weekend, but generally, as long as my health's okay, I'll do something on either a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And then the Last Timers Club monthly members live stream is normally the last Sunday of every month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you to each and every one of you. I appreciate you all. It's been fun. It's been real. Great to see you all. And I want to thank everybody for what a great chat tonight. Just awesome. I mean, I can't respond that often because I'm trying to pay attention to the case and stuff, but it's really great seeing y'all, and appreciate each and every one of you, and appreciate all the new and existing members as well. So we'll see each other soon. Okay, take care of yourselves, and don't work too hard this week, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Look out for part 2. I think we're gonna try to do that. Okay, much love.